My name is Dave Siegel, and I'm joined here with John McDonald with the Judge Group. Good afternoon. How you guys doing? The title of our presentation is Web Collaboration. Web Conference. Very, very generic. What are you guys expecting to see before I jump in there? So that can mean anything, right?
Competition for connect.
Yeah, very good. Well, as a matter of fact, I'm here to find it. What's that?
How do you make it smart?
How do we make it smart?
How do you make us smarter?
By keeping it easy, right? The easier it is, the smarter you see, at least, right? The technology we're going to show you today is flash-based, like Kinect is. And I think of all the different players in the market, people ask, well, what competitor are you guys closest to? Kinect has to be. Adobe has to be, since Reach Flash is the foundation for technologies. I originally designed this presentation to be a 45-minute presentation, and I just found out this morning it's a 30-minute slot. So I had a choice either to cover things pretty thoroughly as I go through it, because I have some pretty good information here, even if you're all very experienced web conferencing people. I kept everything pretty much generic, and if you guys have any questions as I go through this, feel free to interrupt me at any time. I love to chat and talk. The agenda that I'm going to cover today, video and voice over IP. Being that Flash is the foundation of our tool, we can do a lot of unique things with voice over IP and video that maybe other tools cannot do, or at least easily. Why is it important to have dynamic video and also dynamic interfaces? We're going to cover a number of different reasons why one size doesn't necessarily fit all, depending on what you're looking to communicate or what you're looking to convey online. No longer do you really have to change the way you teach or change the way you communicate in order to fit the requirements of the tool. The tool can kind of morph and change along with what you're looking to do. I think that's very important. Being dynamic, a lot of tools try to replicate a virtual room. You hear virtual rooms a lot in the industry, especially. I don't think that's necessarily a good thing. What is good, and I think what is innovative, is the ability to replicate space. And I'll cover that in a little bit.
That's important to me.
What's that,
That's what I
sir?
want to know about.
Replicating space?
The dynamics.
Good. I'm going to focus on that. No problem. We'll cover that. And logistics. I'll tell you what, as web collaboration becomes more and more technologically advanced with video, multi-point video, VoIP, multimedia content, all in this virtual space that you're creating, the know-how of the instructor, even though the interface might get easier and easier, and for instance, Skype has a green button and a red button, right? Pretty easy. We're not down to 2 buttons yet in the collaboration industry, but there are some things that, as a facilitator of web conferencing, you really need to know, especially when you're dealing with online communications as a part of your collaboration. When you're looking to see people and see them clearly and see them well, and hear audio over the internet clearly. There's a number of different steps that are definitely good to know. So I'm going to cover that, and I'm going to cover that hopefully before the time's over. Let me move my little pointer out of the way. When is real-time interactive video important? When video is the content. Now, we're one of a select group of companies in the industry that does multi-point video conferencing to a high level. What I mean by high level, it doesn't matter if it's point-to-point, 1 window, 2 windows. Technologically speaking, I'm not saying this is feasible, but you could have upwards to 30 concurrent video windows with our tool. My view of that, it's stupid. Have you ever been on an audio conference with 30 people and not everybody's muted and everybody starts talking? What happens? You don't hear anything, right? It's just a lot of mismatch. That's essentially what you have when you have that number of concurrent video windows. So it's very important, number one, to use video when it's needed, not as a coolness factor, because when you start using video, there's a whole other third and fourth dimension of logistics that you really have to consider. It's not just how good your internet connection is, but how good is the internet connection of those who are connecting in. Are they on a network? Are they on an individual, like a cable or a DSL line? And many of those are asynchronous, meaning the speed that comes down might be a lot faster than the speed going up. And if you have a co-presenter that might be at home, they might be limited with what they can do. Even though they say we'll have a 5 meg connection, that may not necessarily be true when you're broadcasting. So that gets back to the logistics. When the benefit of collaborative video outweighs the logistics of delivering it, when it's important, as I just mentioned. Now, ask me a lot of questions about this because I've been doing this for a long time, since the late 90s, technically, when at the time I was one of the original 3 founders of our company that put together this collaboration technology. And at the time, there's 3 competitors. WebEx, Placeware, and I think there's a company, there's Interwise, there's 4. Interwise and just a company called Mentorgy with technology called LearnLink, which is now Island Communications. And that was it, Horizon Window. So there's 4 or 5, but now there's over 150 companies out in the market that do this. So my point is, I've seen anything from delivering from a school to another school, from a classroom to another classroom, from an emergency operations center at a 911 facility into a roaming police car going down the highway. And the logistics involved in each are pretty different. So keep your own scenario in your mind as far as if you have any specific questions about this. I'll try to keep some time at the end. When it takes considerably more time and money to develop content and or simulations to deliver something that can be easily demonstrated on camera. And I call this a certified proficiency, not an information broadcast. An information broadcast might be somebody doing a news report, for instance. Actually, the next slide or two will cover this. But what I mean by that is telemedicine. For instance, we were working with some physicians in the Belize jungle, taught from a medical group here in Philadelphia, teaching them the latest and greatest of diabetic wound care. Because these physicians in Belize, they've been doctors for 20, 25 years, but there's no forced continuing medical education. So what they understand as far as medicine is 25 years old. So that would be a certified proficiency. To actually show somebody a technique. Obviously quality video and clear video in real time without a lot of latency is very, very important.
Can you handle images too?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Any form of image, almost video from almost any video capture device, whether it be a webcam, a digital camcorder through a FireWire, one of those ceiling wall mounted pan zoom tilt cameras, any video capture device, and also any image. When on-demand video isn't good enough because it requires Q&A or some form of interaction and collaboration. And this is the most important. I saved this for last because it's so crucial. When the video doesn't distract from the posted content. And what I mean by that is, I wonder if it's the next slide here. Let me see. I have a really good clip. Here we go. When video doesn't distract from posted content. What you're looking at right now are actual eye tracks, taken from a group of control audiences, looking at 2 different information broadcasts or real-time communication using video. The one to the left is just a lady giving a talk on whatever, right? There's no other posted information. That woman is the content. Looking at the content, obviously, if you look at the eye tracks are focused on what's posted below the video and right in the center of her face. It's a good eye track. Basically, the developers of this interface knew what they were doing. They didn't post any additional information when there's a lot of blank space over here. It's blank. And just because you have blank space doesn't mean you have to use it and post stuff there, because it could actually detract from the message you're trying to convey. The information retention that you'd have on an interface like this is scientifically proven to be higher than the one we have from CNN posted over here to the right.
Can you interpret the image?
Can you interpret the image as far as?
Well, the green,
I'm
image
sorry.
to the left and the green is where the eyes are actually focused at for the majority of the time.
Blue is low, yellow is, green is medium, yellow is high, and orange is very high. So it goes dark blue, medium blue, light blue, green, yellow. It's almost like this is a bullseye. So the highest intensity is right off the tip of her nose, as a matter of fact, from where they're looking. Now, that was done by the Pointer Institute. Now, Nielsen did this with CNN, different colors, but it's the same concept. Blue is low, yellow is medium, red is a high intensity of people staring at that particular screen. Now, here you have the video. Now, I'm referencing the screenshot over here to the right. You have a video of a newscaster. Below it, you have like a pause, rewind, forward, kind of a video tracking slider just below that. Then you have posted content off to the right in paragraph form. As far as what that newscaster is talking about, then unfortunately nobody's looking at Wolf Blitzer. Now, one person looked at Wolf Blitzer. How about that?
And they want to close out of it, it looks like.
Yeah, I was saying the same thing.
Exactly right. That's a very good point. That's a really bad eye track. The point is, they could have they could have left the video out of it, just streamed the audio and posted more written content, because it looks like people would, you know what? people stared at the navigation tool more than they looked at the video. And if you look at the video, which has no content to it other than somebody reporting from the field, and you add that to that slider, the navigation slider, that's a lot more red area, a lot more focus than the posted content over to the right. You follow me? So a different interface design would have probably resulted in a better outcome for CNN, just for that one particular piece of information. Your eyes can't lie, it's scientific. The more you focus, the more you're into something, the more you're going to walk away retaining that information. And if you're retaining the navigation slider, it's about 75% of your focus on the screen. It's very bad. It's a bad thing. So it proves good and bad use of video content. So just because you can do great video doesn't mean you should use it in every single session. Okay? Although you could, but that's up to you. It depends on what you're looking to do. It's just something to keep in mind. Why is dynamic video important? These are two screenshots of our interface, and by the way, I'm actually using our interface right now. You're actually on camera, and we're sending it to a remote location. But why is dynamic video important? Exactly for that reason alone. Depending on what you're looking to teach or what you're looking to deliver online, assuming you want to use video, you might want to use a smaller video window or a larger video window, depending if you're trying to instruct on a certified proficiency, or if video is just being used as an identifier for the presenter, and you actually have posted content like this PowerPoint that I'm actually sharing online. So what I mean by that is, let's expand the audio-video window. I can change the shape and size. Let's go to a widescreen medium size. Or I could even shrink it down to something that's very small. Let's go to like a portrait small. And now let's say I go back to my regular presentation view just to show you how that would fit. I could actually resize all of these windows. They're all floating, and actually design my own interface based on what I'm looking to instruct. And that could be stored as a user preference. Prime example, the chat down below. Every single web collaboration tool has chat, and chat's very important because a lot of times other students in the room, they'll answer questions before they hit you and knock you out of stride when you're instructing in class. However, there are times when you want them to collaborate with each other, and they're talking about, hey, did you see Tiger Woods come out of, have his knee surgery? Did you watch the match play championship? They'll talk about everything outside of what you're looking to instruct. You might want to even turn off that component and make it disappear. So each component is a module, could be enabled or disabled. And my point for showing this to you is just that the tool is what you want it to be for that particular session. Dynamically, on the fly, without setting up intricate code or switches in the back end. There's no admin area that controls that. Everything's moderator controlled on the fly. So with that said, we get back to my PowerPoint presentation. And that's why having dynamic video is important. This comes back to my initial opening remark. Why replicate a room when you can replicate space? A room is a box, pretty much what we're in right now. Space could be amorphic. It could be really shaped and sized however you want with the capabilities that you want. This happens to be a screen. This just happened, by the way, last week. I took a screenshot of it because I thought it'd be cool for this presentation. You can't see that. That's there's that Lieutenant Colonel. I can't read his name here on the screen. That gentleman is at Central Command in Iraq. Jonathan, center bottom, it's almost like Hollywood Squares. He's in our home office. The person bottom left is in an office here in Harrisburg, and we're actually using the tool completely web-based clientless to communicate with some individuals at Central Command. Now, as you can see, when you look at that interface, multi-point video conferencing, no content. However, you can immediately switch out of that mode and go into a presentation mode and share any content. Could be pre-recorded video, could be PowerPoints, even with the transitions and sounds that are built into them. Could be screen sharing, polling. I mean, I don't want to go feature to feature because no matter what collaboration tool it is, they all have the fundamental core competencies as far as the capabilities. But it's completely dynamic and on the fly. And that's what I call space and not a room. Yes, ma'am?
We're looking to put our speech communication course online. So when the students are doing their speeches, they need an audience there to see, and the instructor needs to see how well they do the speech. So how many, you said 30, but that probably wouldn't
You
be
have,
up to it.
goes into logistics. We can support as many as you would need. You have to know the connections are like from everybody who's logging in. Prime example, if you have 6 concurrent video windows, it's whatever the required bit rate for each window times 6 is, and that's the overhead that's required at each end user's location. So if somebody's out in the middle of the countryside, has a very basic DSL line, may not be able to facilitate it. So that's part of your site survey on behalf of your students. And what we've done for schools is we actually developed a URL. It's a web-based, I call it a system check. Checks everything. Computer specs, your flash version, your bandwidth going up, your bandwidth going down, your millisecond latency from that computer's location to the server that's hosting it.
So maybe like a prereq for these students
Exactly.
before they register is to go through that
Exactly.
web
Absolutely.
check.
You also want to make sure that they have a microphone. They
And
might
a
say, well,
camera.
exactly. It's basic stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, speech, we work with are you with a local community college?
Montgomery County Community College.
Oh, I work with Dorian Fisher.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, tell Dorian.
I think you were going to do,
Tell Dorian Okay, moving on. Web conferencing logistics. Over 85% of all web conferencing sessions delivered around the world require some form of software download, installation, and configuration. Now, this is all generic, good information. This is not us specific. If your technology requires such downloads, plan accordingly. Less is more, clientless. Obviously, we're trying to toot our own horn. But my point is, our technology, back when we started, back in the late 90s, it wasn't clientless. Okay, so I've been in both sides of the fence and lived in each part of the world with that. My point is, many of these client downloads now are becoming more and more intelligent as far as where they install on your hard drive. Even with that, some financial institutions and government organizations, you might have difficulty installing the client. If people, you might want to, it comes also into designing logistics behind the policy behind your class, as far as you might want to force your students or your participants to log in a certain time ahead. If they're on a medium speed connection or slower, it might take a little bit extra time to enter the session. How will you communicate with your audience? VoIP or chat? Do your participants have a headset and a mic? And can they type fast enough in a chat in order to keep up? I'm a big fan of synchronous e-learning sessions specifically. Use voice over IP and just do the proper upfront steps to make sure everybody has a working microphone. The reason for that is ever since we first started out in the late 90s, my interpretation of how online classes go are classes are split into 3 sections. Those who can type and type well and type fast enough and get a question out when it's timely. Those who kind of do and might ask a question late that isn't quite timely. Then you have those who type, hunt and peck a question out, and by the time they get their sentence typed out, the professor is so far along they just hit delete and they're like, oh, I don't want to be stupid and ask the question, I already missed it. So a third of the class, now this might be a little bit better nowadays, this is what I've had found over the last 15 years, but if you can't type well without VoIP, everybody can speak faster than they can type. Most people, gross majority of people can speak faster. So why not use it if it's available? Another thing you want to think of with microphones is the technology that you're using. Is that VoIP full duplex voice over IP, meaning you can talk and hear at the same time? Is it half duplex, meaning it's a walkie-talkie? If you remember when we were a kid, we had a walkie-talkie, that's half duplex. You speak, wait, listen, speak, wait, listen. You have a walkie-talkie button. Walkie-talkies are inherently echo-canceling because you can't record what the speaker is playing at the same time. With full duplex technology, many times if you don't have a headset, you're using external speakers, maybe a $10 gooseneck mic that's purchased at Walmart. Many times that mic pick up what the speakers are playing and create a reverb effect. That's part of your logistics and figuring that out. You might want to consider an echo-canceling external USB microphone if they're not using a headset. Bandwidth and network. Everybody wants cool interactive video, but what about the bandwidth to run it? Up and down. Don't just look at a bandwidth saying, oh, well, my cable modem is 6 megabits. That's not necessarily true. There's different websites that you can go to test what it is. Speedtest.net is one of the most popular ones. DSL Reports is another one. There's 2 or 3 of them that are really, really good that are pretty accurate within a certain percentage. It's always good to know what your up and down throughput is. And I just explained how to test. What factors affect your session? This comes into the pre-planning of your online web conference. Now, this is good information for the corporate sector, for every education sector, every sector. If somebody's logged in from home over a wireless, per se, make sure that they're close to the wireless access point. Because even if it says that you're at a good or a very good connection, you're still dropping packets, which in a real-time collaborative session, it could increase latency and create a chop. Even if you're connected on a cable or actual Cat5 connection right into your home network, peer-to-peer software, Kazaa, stuff like that, BearShare, kids downloading music. Those types of protocols really don't throttle the bandwidth, can almost take down your connection, meaning whatever you have available, if your son or daughter is downloading enough music, trust me, they'll cap it out for you. So one of your policies would be, in setting this up, would be to make sure that you're not running P2P software on your home-based network. Very important. Webcams, drivers, etc., brands, other webcams, other software using the cam. Number one service call with any company that does video over the internet with webcams. My webcam's not working. The reason for that is they might have a software that came with the webcam, shows local video that it's using, and that other web conferencing software cannot get the information from the webcam because it's another software is already pointing to it. So you can't have multiple software applications pulling data from the webcam concurrently. That's very, very important. That's the number one thing we check if somebody says, oh, my webcam's not working. Well, number one is your software driver installed? Yes, it is. Do you see yourself locally somewhere on your screen? Well, yeah, there's another window, close it. How to control the above, policy and proper planning. You could ask a lot of questions from companies that have done a lot of web conferences and seen the good with the bad and along with the ugly at times. The best thing to ensure a good conference is proper planning and policy. Make sure they have the computer. Make sure they're not running Kazaa and BearShare and taking down your internet connection while you're in the middle of a collaborative session. Cyber flirting, by the way. You're kind of smiling, but my experience working with colleges, universities, and especially high school with synchronous e-learning, that's something that popped up a couple years ago. It became a problem for schools. It needs to be part of your policy. Invite them and they will come. Problems associated with email-based conferencing invites. No matter what tool you have, because every organization, whether it be university, college, company, corporate, government institution, whoever, has an IT manager whose job it is to keep you out. Whether it be a firewall, whether it be spam. Now spam, I'll tell you what, every single day I have crucial stuff that gets sent in my spam folder because our IT guy is so adamant about keeping bad email out that some email gets sent, good email gets sent there as well. So the nice thing about static URLs linked to virtual spaces is that you can save it as a favorite. Click that link, you don't even have to retype it, and with a URL-based room, you come right to the room. That way, if it's a room or a space that you're using over and over and over again, you go to the URL, you're in the room. You don't constantly have to send email invites every time you want to get somebody into a session.
So each user gets a URL?
Each room or session gets a URL. And it could be password protected or however, from the moderator's perspective. And what about archive sessions? How large are session files? If you're using a tool that stores the recorded file to the local laptop or desktop computer, if you have an hour and a half long class, how big is that file going to be? What we do as a company is we keep it fileless. Smaller is better, obviously, because if you want to disseminate recording session files, it might be too big to even email. What we do is all sessions that are archived are stored on the server and instantly published to the web as a URL. So from there, you can just embed a link in WebCT, in Blackboard, in a CRM, a portal, even email. Blast to your class, embed a link, they click on it, they're now watching the recorded session as if it's TiVo. I used to say VCR, but I guess I can't say that anymore. And what about something other than chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry? Which everything up to this point you probably have heard, at least with one or multiple web conferencing providers. Think out of the box for learning. Because whoever doesn't think it's to the point where it's not like Kirk in and Kirk out is sorely mistaken because we're there now. And we've been doing some really exotic things even since September 11th as a company. What you have up here is a cell phone, obviously upper left, Bottom left is a portable satellite dish for internet, high speed, 1.5 megabits, up and down, with actually lower latency. This is kind of small, but I'll explain what this is. This is a command and control pilot we did with Booz Allen Hamilton and the Army Tactical Command. What you have here in the bottom right is a WareNet computer. You ever see the movie Aliens with Sigourney Weaver? Remember when they're in that tank and everybody has a helmet camera, and when the camera goes, shh, you know that person died?
Right.
You know what I mean? That's exactly what this is. Those glasses have a camera on it. There's a nuclear sensor, biochemical sensor on it, and one of those packs is actually one of those, that's called a catcher unit. That's a ruggedized laptop, full-blown XP, lots of RAM. Now I can actually drop that as high as the ceiling. It'll bounce a couple times, and the computer will work fine. Now obviously it's shot.
Where's the laser?
There is no laser in this one. The closest thing to the laser is that device over there to the left. That's called an eyeball cam. Those are cameras that are actually a very ruggedized ball of rubber. You throw it through a second floor window, it busts through the window, it always lands right side up. And whoever sees that, the first reaction is to think it's a grenade. They get away from it. And it always rights itself. It's on a tripod. From there to RF signal to that device. And you can kind of zoom in and zoom out. You can see exactly what's in that room before the bad guys or the good guys come in and take over. My point is, one thing I didn't put on here is a unmanned area. There are vehicles. Now, this is obviously more exotic than any of you will get into, but my point is, in one interface, in the upper left, you have video coming from a WareNet device. The second one is also a WareNet device. So person one and person two, that's somebody's eye-level perspective who's in that building. Number three is also a WareNet. You see some guy squatting behind a Jeep. He's looking at his buddy there. And then that video on the upper right is actually live video coming in from an eyeball cam sitting on an office floor. Exotic stuff through one unified interface. My point for showing this to you is it doesn't matter where you're teaching from. I don't care if you're in a jungle. We did a program with the Navy one time, and actually they ran a pilot. They had a sailor float around in an inner tube wirelessly, 8211 to the carrier, and sending live video and collaborating with somebody on another ship. And as long as the wave didn't blow over the gentleman, you're in a live session. We also did a session in Western Maryland where a cop was driving down the highway in his police cruiser, now not the guy driving, the person riding a shotgun, while the Emergency Operations Center was sending blueprints of the building and telling them exactly how to store in this building on their way to a building, instead of going back to a central area and wasting time. My point is, if we could do, and the last example I want to give you is, I told you about that with the doctor in Belize. In the middle of the jungle, using that satellite connection, that little roaming box. So my point is, it doesn't matter where you're at, it doesn't matter where your students are at, you can teach and learn and collaborate from anywhere on Earth. Anywhere. Very, very mobile. A little bit over time here. Conclusion. Video isn't always required in collaborative sessions. If you use video, use it for a reason. Consider using existing technology to use video in ways that were never previously possible. Roaming learners and teachers. And think outside of the box. Don't just get up there with a webcam pointing at you and talk about Shakespeare or whatever and have a little PowerPoint over to the right, because everybody does that. The tools are there to become creative, and you can, and it's not difficult. Here's another example. We're teaching K-12 students how to play an instrument from Ireland. Actually, there's a famous Irish tin whistle instructor actually teaching online, real-time tin whistle classes to an inner-city charter school here in Philadelphia, West Philadelphia Achievement Charter School. And the kids love it. So my point is, if little fourth graders could learn how to use tools like this and get a class like that they would never ever experience previously.
I mean, you're saying you can create some simulations where people can participate in that simulation?
Absolutely, absolutely. Technology like this, as far as simulations, has been done. I'll tell you what, a big user of simulation technology is the medical field and also the federal government.
The military.
Exactly, big time.
You have some simulation cases?
Not with me. not with me. We don't typically develop simulations. Other companies develop them, self-paced, they're flash-based, and then we can deliver it through a content viewer.